Assembly Member Georgiou.
Mr. Mayor, there's one organisation that wants to ban advertising for fossil fuels. This is a woke, nasty, neo-Marxist organisation of which you are co-chair, and that's C40 Cities. Millions of Londoners and I believe they want to ban meat, they want to ban cars, they want to overtax workers, they want pay per mile, they want to ban flights, they want to ban certain clothing, so I hope you keep your leather trousers in the drawer. They want to do all of these woke, nasty things in the name of reducing global emissions on the backs of British workers. I drive an electric car. Don't tell anyone. Shh. You know, I have solar panels on my roof. But surely there is a better way of doing this than banning absolutely everything and harming the lives of Londoners.
It's really, I'm left speechless. And I've been doing this for 9 years. Let me just try and respond to some of the points that have been raised by the member. Roughly speaking, half the world's population lives in cities now. That's going to be 65% over the next 10 years. Cities are responsible for a large portion of the emissions, and I think we've got a responsibility to address some of the challenges posed by, human-made climate change. I'm not a climate denier or a climate delayer. And cities can turn this crisis into an opportunity, for example. At the same time as we're reducing emissions, create good green jobs. Those solar panels had to be made and had to be installed. That electric car had to be made, as did the electric vehicle charging point installed. That is an opportunity to turn a crisis, climate change, into an opportunity, creating jobs that are good green jobs. And when I tell him that 90% of the C40 cities, more than 90%, are reducing emissions faster than national governments. When I tell him that these cities in the last few years have helped create 21 million good green jobs, I'd assume he'd be proud that London's a member of C40 and its mayor is the co-chair of this great organisation, and I'm really pleased and proud to be working with C40 to make even further progress, for example, in reducing air pollution.
On that response, I'm glad that neither you or I, due to what C40 City wants, will be giving up our leather trousers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Assembly Member Polanski.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you for the work that C40 is doing. The Rosebank oil field is the emissions that are cumulative of 28 of the poorest income countries altogether. And next week, it looks like the government is going to make a decision on it. I agree with everything you just said. This is a climate emergency. We also know that jobs in North Sea oil and gas have over halved in the last 10 years. And there are lots of jobs waiting, particularly in London as well, in renewable industries. So what would be your message to Ed Miliband on this decision?
No, I'm not, without going into details of specific sites, I'm quite clear. Those sites that have licences already granted should go ahead, but no new licences should be given.
That's avoiding the question about Rosebank again, and we had this last Mayor's question time. Is it not hypocritical to have very, very good words on the climate crisis, but then when I'm asking you a very specific question about a very tangible oil field that this government are potentially going to extend a licence to that will cause catastrophic devastation, for you as Mayor of London not to take your role as a climate leader?
I'm quite clear in relation to retrospective decisions and forward-looking decisions. I don't apply that across the piece, whether it's as a lawyer or whether it comes to legislation. I can understand why, contingent upon those licences being granted, families, livelihoods, and communities have made decisions, and to unpick and undo that creates a level of uncertainty that is not good for anybody. But I also welcome the fact that, as we speak, the Secretary of State Ed Miliband is in Berlin trying to make sure that countries across the globe can try and reach agreement that will be meaningful and significant. And it's really important that no future licences are given, and we make that transition. This jargon, just transition, what it's about is making sure we transition from fossil fuel to renewables. That means solar, that means wind, and that means nuclear as well.
I'd say the insecurity is a reliance on oil and gas, and it's not a retrospective decision that's being made literally on Wednesday around Rosebank. And Ed Miliband at the moment is trying to obstruct the Berlin action mechanism as well. But anyway, we'll return to it, I'm sure. Thank you, Chair.
Let's begin on with the first question from Assembly Member on two child benefit limits in the name of Assembly Member Clark.
Can I thank the member for her question? Every child deserves the security and opportunity to thrive. I've long been on record in raising my concerns about the impact of the two-child limit and voted against the government whip and the Labour whip, I beg your pardon, when it's introduced when I was an MP in 2015. Of course, ministers have had to think hard about how they work through the financial pressures they inherited from the previous government. But I've always said that I wanted to see this policy scrapped as soon as the government is able to do so. Getting rid of this policy in full would lift tens of thousands of people out of poverty in London, particularly those from working households and households with young children. And I hope this budget is the opportunity to make that change. In London, we continue to take bold action to support families in need, including through introducing universal free school meals for every state primary child, providing activities during school holidays, protecting free and discounted travel for children, and running income maximisation programmes to help London families claim all of the support they're entitled to. However, the recent publication of the government's updated deprivation statistics is a timely reminder of the challenges we face in our city, with London boroughs accounting for 7 of the 12 most deprived local authorities in England when it comes to family income. This is a challenge far greater than City Hall can tackle alone. That's why I welcome the government's commitment to bringing forward a new national child poverty strategy, and why I've asked GLA officials to work with the unit coordinating this work to ensure the strategy is informed by a clear picture of the scale and nature of child poverty in London and the steps needed to meet the ambitious targets that the government has set itself. It's important to ensure that forthcoming policy decisions help to reduce, not exacerbate, inequality in London. It's critical that the forthcoming reviews of the fair funding formula and business rates reflect the levels of need in London and protect the services that families on low incomes rely on.
Thank you for that. And as you remarked, it's tens of thousands. It's actually estimated to be 630,000 children that would be lifted out of poverty by removing this cap. I mean, I know some of these families, as I'm sure you do as well, who are financially very poor and really struggle, and they have more than 2 children, and it's grim. It's really grim. I welcome the fact you've highlighted the new national poverty strategy, which I think is needed because we have so much poverty in this country, and as you rightly point out, 7 of the top areas are in our capital, and it's simply not good enough to have such deep poverty in Britain in this day and age. Will you join me in commending the campaign groups who continue to highlight all that this policy does? I mean, that includes 4 in 10 and the Trust for London and Child Poverty Action, who continue to lobby government, but more than that, they can continue to work with grassroots groups who are opposed to this policy.
Well, I've got nothing but respect for the groups that she's mentioned. I know Child Poverty Action Group very well, Trust for London, of course, and 4 in 10. They do a huge amount of work supporting communities, supporting policymakers, supporting decision makers. One of the things that's just worth reminding ourselves of is, firstly, contrary to popular myth outside of London, the streets of London aren't all paved with gold. We've got huge inequalities in our region. But the second point is a lot of Londoners are working, doing the right thing, sometimes 2-3 jobs, and their families are still in poverty. And so it's really important to recognise the importance of policies we've pushed, like the London Living Wage, like the Good Work Standard, supporting employers do the right thing. Notwithstanding that, there are still big challenges. That's one of the reasons why we are lobbying the government to do more to help those communities across our city who live in conditions which, frankly speaking, aren't good enough in 2025.
And before I hand back to the chair, I just want to remark slightly, because I think poverty is so complicated, and obviously it dips into housing, it dips into all areas of people's lives. But just to point out that that Barnet is one of those boroughs that is building social homes. And I'll hand back to the chair.
Thank you, Chair. So 1 in 3 children are growing up in poverty in London. That's 500,000 children. I'm pleased to hear that you say you're concerned about the impact of this, and I believe you. That is different, though, to saying that you're calling on the Chancellor to scrap the cap. So will you join me, and more importantly, many child poverty campaigners in saying scrap this 2-child benefit cap?
Chair, I've been on record, and I apologise for not being more explicit for some time, explaining the consequences of the two-child benefit cap. I voted against the Labour whip in 2015, and I have been calling on the Chancellor to scrap the two-child benefit cap. As I've said for some time, I appreciate the inheritance, but as soon as feasible, it's important that the government do so. And I make this point as well. These are families not fulfilling their potential because of the poverty they live in. I speak from personal experience in relation to the difference support can have, and it's that helping hand that makes such a difference.
Thank you. I'd push further and say, you say about this inheritance, but we could have a wealth tax on assets, equalise capital gains tax in line with income tax, and put investment income, national insurance on investment income, but I accept those aren't your decisions. Trust for London modelling also says that if you lift the two-child benefit cap, but don't lift the benefit cap in London, that would, if you lifted the benefit cap, that would take 55,000 people out of poverty. Is that something you'd support too?
Yeah, I'll go further. He knows the impact of the housing allowance differential. For those that don't know, it impacts housing benefit and the amount your landlord receives, because understandably there's a delta which causes real problems and stuff. So I'd go further in terms of the importance of lifting that cap as well, which is a huge issue. One of the good pieces of news over the last 24 hours, in addition to the DLR extension, is the government recognising when it comes to deprivation modelling for local authorities, the importance of adding housing as part of that as well, which is a big factor in London.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Do you think London should continue expanding climate policies like those discussed here, or do you feel they go too far? Why? Should the government scrap the two-child benefit cap and other welfare limits to reduce child poverty, or are there better ways to support struggling families? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more in-depth political commentary, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the world of power and politics. Thanks for watching.